if you want to exert any type of influence, leadership, impact in your workplace, in your home, in the world, then you want to make sure you are tuned in here today to I Am and More presents the Journey to More, the only place for entrepreneurial minds so that we can be wealthy and whole. We can be happy and blessed. We're not going to substitute any piece of this. And so, if we're not going to have any substitutions, that means we really have to deal with every part of us. And if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a leader, if you do anything where you have to get people on board, then you want to make sure that you deal with all parts of you, because it's going to take all parts of you to lead yourself and others well. You all know who I am. I am attorney Jamila Moore, the entrepreneur's attorney and business strategist, where I help you not only protect your profits, brand, and business, but I help you grow it. That means get more money using trademarks, contracts, and copyrights. Now, today I have someone with me who is really special to me. And I just had a moment of reminder of the moment where we met and what happened in that moment where I was in one of them Jamila things. But hey, prayer is my superpower. So I was in a calm Jamila thing. And she just stepped in and with her leadership presence was able to turn the moment around. I would say a lot about her, but I think she can say better things about herself. So let's welcome Yvette C. Owens to the I Am community. Hi.
Hey, thank you so much for having me here. It is an absolute honor and pleasure to be on the same platform with attorney Jamila. I love, love, love her. And I love what she's doing. And not because she's doing it for other people, because she's doing it for me too. So yay, yay, yay.
I appreciate you so much. So you have led for decades
Mhm.
and you've made impact for decades. So talk to us about your journey and how you became like Yvette C. Owens, because you don't just arrive there one day. It's a journey.
Mhm. Yeah, I was blessed enough to be born into a family of leaders who exercise their leadership in their workplace, in ministry, and community. So it was around me all the time. We often talk about proximity is everything. So being born into that scenario, it was just a part of me. Now, did I know how to become a great leader at that time? No, because we go through journeys. Is leadership bossing people around? Because I used to hear all the time when I was little, you're bossy, kind of thing. Um, but eventually, as life happens and as we experience leadership, we often, it can either make you better or it can make you bitter.
Mm.
And I vowed that it would make me better because I didn't want other people to suffer under the hands of what I had to suffer. And I didn't want to also continue to present myself in that way that would repel people instead of compelling people. And we getting to the real end of it. The bottom line is more profits, better service, better products to people, and making a better impact. So I constantly try to nurture myself, watch other leaders, and learn from that aspect until I understand that this was not just a profession, but it was actually a calling. I remember standing in a mentor house. I was actually being counseled by her, and I heard leaders leader. And I thought it was really referencing the gentleman that was standing across from me. But I've learned since that God was really talking to me. So I was like, okay. And with a teaching mantle on my life, I understand the call, and I want to say yes, and I continue to say yes every day because I know how many people need great leaders to lead them so they can become so phenomenal in what they do.
You said so much there, right? You are a leader of leaders. And so many times, many people try and do things on their own, or they don't really give the honor and deference to having a leader lead them. And can you talk to us a little bit about the thing that we need to be primed for to glean from a more seasoned leader?
So the first thing I would say is transparency,
Mm.
which really comes from self-awareness internally, right? If
Hmm.
I understand that there's some blind spots that I have, you might not know what they are because they are blind spots. But as long as you're open to understanding that everyone has them, now I need help to identify them so I can get over them and I can go to the next level, the next dimension. So that means I need to be transparent with myself, self aware, and then be willing to be transparent with others who can help me identify those areas. And the other thing is be transparent with our biases. We often point to other people, those folks who have biases. But guess what? I have biases too. If I really think about, oh, and this could be something simple as I remember attending a funeral, a memorial service for a friend's daughter, and these young ladies were doing liturgical dance. Now, based on my training around what liturgical dance should be and the attire should be, I was all over the fact that they didn't have on the proper stuff underneath and blah, 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 blah. And I would realize, stop it. Stop being so biased around their attire because they're really presenting their love and their admiration for the person who passed on, and they were doing it in such a strong, phenomenal way. And who said they had to have tights on? I mean, they weren't inappropriate, they had shorts on underneath. Who said they had to have on different shoes? So it's just even the smallest things we need to be self-aware about, transparent about, and get over it.
Hold on. The smallest things we need to be self aware about, transparent about, and getting over it.
Get over it.
That's a mic dropper right there.
Get
Because
over it.
a lot of times we don't like to lean in to that self-awareness piece and own where we are in life and own our thoughts and own whatever it is. And
Mhm.
what you just illustrated for us is your ability to own things.
Yeah.
And so, if you're going to lead well, you have to pause and then live in that ownership piece. And I think that's so important for people because we may tend to think that living in that self awareness is a weakness.
Mm.
Talk to me about the misconception of that, because that's a misconception.
So the first misconception is that you got a long time. If you're a leader, you have a long time to do that. What I
Mhm.
just described happened within moments. So you have to, they say practice makes perfect. No, perfect practice makes perfect. So you have to continue to do it and be aware of it so that you can move through it quickly, especially when you're a leader because you have people following you. They're watching all the time and you have decisions. A great leader is decisive. They take the information in that they're given and then they can make decisions. And they're okay with altering that decision when they get more information and not feeling like, oh, I made this decision, now I have to stick with it. No, more information gives you the right to make a new decision. And but all of that has to take place within moments, and you have to be able to process all that within moments. And when you start owning your stuff, let's put it that way, then people will find the freedom who are following you to own their own stuff. And now you give them the space and you open it up and they can talk about it. You can talk about it. Can I tell you what you can achieve when everybody feels safe in talking about, hey, I know this is not the right way I should be feeling, but it's for how I'm feeling right now. And this is how I'm processing it. And then if you invite somebody else to be a part of that, they're more than welcome to they will jump in and help. If you say, I just need more time to do it, they're more than willing to give you that time to do it. But when you own it, then you show and you lead and you teach other people how to own it. And then you can get through the muck and the mess much quicker.
That man, this is so gold. Like this, they should be paying at least $97 to get this leadership lesson today because it really is a key to life. If you're going to do anything
Mhm.
well, you have to know how to lead well. And the great thing that you're really pointing out to us is that before you go out there leading others, you have to work out your own stuff. You have to lead you well. You have to process quickly. Um, what are some of the things that you see that cause leadership to fail when environments are not safe? Because that's something you just hit on, and I really want to lean into.
Yeah. So one is not being present. There are leaders that all of a sudden are not around, not available. So we're in this scenario, this situation, and we need guidance. Or we need the ability to share with you what we're seeing so that we can all work through what the next steps should be, but you're not available. You're not present. Now, that doesn't necessarily always equate to you not being physically present, but you could be in the room but not present.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if I can't communicate and you're not open to us communicating and talking about this and collaborating with it. So, the other thing is, I would say, don't think you have to be the answer to everything. You invited all of these people to be on your team by hiring them. You invited them because they had skill set, knowledge, information, experiences that you thought would benefit your organization. Yet, when we bring them into the organization, we then try to transform them into somebody that we don't even know what we want, right? Or we think we want. Well, if we hired them because they were the good people that we wanted, let's let them continue to evolve to be even greater in that space based on that and find the good treasure nuggets inside of that person, that skill set that you hired that can even help transform the entire organization through what you do together. So be present, really present, whether it's physical or not, and then also be open to having people bring things to the table. It's we often talk about inviting people to the table, and when they're not invited, they go build their own table. So do you really want people to build a table that was really intended for you
Mm.
elsewhere? And trust me, they could be in your space and building a table elsewhere because you're not inviting them to that table to overcome, and you don't have to have those answers. So that was number two. You don't have to have all the answers, glean and pull from those people. And two, the way you do that is invite everybody to the table. And then I would say three, understand. So many people think that if I get people's information or get it from them, that I don't have the final say. I have to take their idea, or I have to take, no. As a leader, you have the final say. Now, be careful in how you articulate that external to the group, because you don't want to necessarily take on all the credit for what you're releasing, because that's a quick and fast pace to being out there on that plank all by yourself,
Mm.
because they know, your team knows that they helped you get there, and yet you're going to say, I did this. No, I've had that happen. I've had a leader ask us and my team, and we worked on something, we delivered it, and in my presence in a meeting, she said, I did. I'm like, oh, okay. Now I know this person. I don't even know if she realized it, but we have to be very, very careful, because whether she realized it or not, I heard it, right?
Yeah.
So be present, be open to other ideas by inviting your people around you to the table to express and collaborate, and then give credit where credit is due, and you own the final decision. And as the people on the team, understand, I can help you, my leader, make an informed decision, but don't own that decision. I don't. They do.
You just touched on something that is something that I say when I'm talking to my clients, or potential clients. I'm like, language matters.
It
What
does.
is said and what is not said will make or break your business transaction.
Right.
And you need to fully understand that. And that now I'm seeing it's a transferable skill even in leadership, because what is said or will not, or is not said, will make or break the dynamics of your team and will make or break the culture that
Mm-hmm.
you have built. So, what we're saying, how we're saying something, all of these things come into play in multiple areas of our lives. So, we have to lean into there and be mindful of that as we're growing and leading other people. One of the things that kind of jumped out to me, because we're talking about all these things leadership, and I have had some of the most incredibly dynamic, difficult leaders in life.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes we get so excited about opportunities that we don't really pause to look at what that leader will do for our overall life
Mm.
based on what we're seeing. So, what can we kind of do to determine or just assess the leader up front before deciding to even join in under that team?
So first, I would say understand what is it that you want out of that relationship.
Mm,
We should go into everything. I don't go into a meeting not knowing what I want to come out of that meeting with. So if I'm doing that for a meeting, you should definitely do it for a relationship that's going to be over an extended period of time, like a position or even a career. So what is it that you want from that relationship? And the way you understand that is, what do they do? Who are they? What type of organization do you are they? Do your homework, do due diligence as much as possible. Now there's some things you just don't find out till you're there. And that's when I say to myself, okay, God, you allowed me in this space for a reason. Now
mhm,
you tell me what I'm supposed to get out of this, right? And there's a reason why I've been in some, to your point, some difficulties. Like, why am I here? Why am I here? Tell me why I'm here, because I just need to know why I'm here. And once you continue to search for that answer, when you get it, now it makes it more palatable, and your perspective change, because I'm not expecting ABC, I'm expecting XYZ. And I know I will never get ABC here because I'm only here because of XYZ. And that's where you focus. And if you still need ABC, now you know you have to go somewhere else and get that. But it's really, what am I dealing with, right? And some of those most difficult player people are, there might be something in me that needs to grow up. In most cases, when, so again, I was brought up around great leaders, a lot of leadership around my entire life. So I expected coming into the workplace that leaders were going to treat me, look out for me the same way all those people did in my life. And that was not so.
mm,
And probably not realistic, because also they were family members and close friends and stuff like that. They're not, the people in the workplace are not going to be invested in me like they were. But the other question is, I had to answer is, how much am I invested in me? Am
mm,
I willing to have, you can be in such a nurturing place that I'm not really doing the work. Everybody's doing the work for me or leading me so tightly and closely down a path that I can just go and follow. But when you're now put in a difficult situation where it's like, I now have to recognize where I am as a person. What skill sets am I going to be growing in this space? And how am I going to own my journey? There was one time in the workplace where they did development plans. You had these quarterly reviews, and your leader would come and talk about opportunities that they see in the organization that they would set you up for. That's no more. That's been gone for several years.
mm.
Now it's like you almost have to know Clarendon by what's going on in the organization at tables that you're not invited to, in rooms that you don't not invited to. So you have to become more um, eloquent and more resourceful in the questions that you ask. You would appreciate that as an attorney, right? It's
Yes.
the questions that you ask that lead to the victories, right? And so, what questions should you be asking of your leaders and the people around you, the spaces around you where you want to go? So, all of those things, can make, when you go after intentionally, can make a difficult situation more palatable.
No, that's really good. And as you're thinking through that, it just makes me think about um, leadership is diverse, and it's diverse in so many different ways. Not only are we different types of people, but we have different genders, we have different races and ethnicities. And so each time we go in, we have to go in with the right lens and with the right set of expectations. And I don't know, no one has ever coached me on that. And so you just, I know you've helped a lot of people with just like reshaping how they go into a new situation, right? Because every situation we enter into has a leader. But I want to kind of like lean into some other stuff here because this lends itself more in the professional world, but you also mentioned ministry and you mentioned communities. And so, how do people manage the dynamics of leading when souls are at stake, you know?
Yeah. So, um, and this, so whoever you are is whoever you are. I'm one that went through, I would say, I'm able to help people go through identity crisis because I went through identity crisis. And part of
Mm-hmm.
it can happen also between your work life and your ministry life, your work life and your spiritual life, your work life and your family life. And when one of the things that I teach is having fluidity in your leadership style, which really is around what all that agile change leadership is around about, is like, how agile are you as a leader? Because I can lead my daughter one way, I can lead people in ministry another way, but I have to be solid in
Mm-hmm.
who I am and in my identity, because that shows up everywhere. That shows up everywhere. And so, how do I taper it in one scenario versus the other? Which is no different if I was only in the workplace. I still need to do the same thing because different scenarios warrant different things. Um, but you have to, when I say you have to own identity, because I'm a business person, ministry for many years for me was a blockage, a stumbling block, because I would often hear from the pulpit, don't bring that corporate stuff in here. That's for the world. Da da da. And I had to say to myself one day, God, I didn't make me like this. I didn't choose to wake up and say, oh, I'm going to put on a business cap. Nope, didn't do it. So if you created me this way, I now have to get in a place where I own it and don't let anybody talk against it. But how do you want me to use it in the spaces that you call me into? Right? And so we do have to understand from a kingdom perspective, every one of us are ambassadors, every one of us. And each one of us are called to at least one mountain. And when I say one mountain, there are those seven: business, politics, church, family, entertainment, education. And I'm probably thinking, forgetting the seventh one. But we're all called to one of those. And when we're called to those, then we have to understand it's about kingdom business, which he cares about saving souls. He cares about everybody being elevated and being their best so they too can represent him and being the ambassadors. So that's when I'm now approaching my calling, my gifting, my talent, my experience. Nothing, we hear it all the time in spaces that we share. Nothing's ever wasted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nothing's ever wasted. So I just need to know how to be very agile with my leadership. And again, it didn't matter if I was only in ministry or only in the workplace or only in the community, it would be the same answer. What is required at any given moment, and be able to flow in that way? So it leads you to the different types of leadership styles. Do I need to be transactional? Which means, look, we got to get A, B, C, and done. Let's put everything in place and get it done. Or am I being transformational? Understanding, where do we want to go, and how do the people involved want to get there, and how do they want to come out of that? And so that I create a space that we all evolve the business and the individuals out of that space. So there's all those different things that take place, um, even when you're in ministry. But leadership is important in ministry, and you cannot be heavenly good and no earthly good, nor can you be earthly good and no heavenly good. God Himself requires balance.
Mm. I don't think I've ever been speechless. God Himself requires balance.
He does.
That's a whole thing. That's a whole nother episode right there.
He does.
God Himself requires balance. And so many times we struggle. We will go to the far end here and no end there and think that the far end is the only way and then condemn those that are balanced.
Right. Correct. And our
Oh,
families suffer a lot. A lot of times we see it when our family's suffering, and it's like, you know, either and suffering in two ways. Either we're too busy doing the ministry stuff or the work stuff, and our families don't get the attention, or they suffer this way. And I have a friend in this space right now. She had to dedicate her time to her family for a long time. She was taking care of her mother and then her grandkids, but she's now stuck there and not using her gifting and all that God's given her in ministry the way she should be. And I would suggest that it's probably spilling over to workplace too, because she could probably be accelerating faster there also, but she's stuck here. So again, it's balance, right? God first, family, and then ministry, which includes what you've been called to do. But He calls it, that's balance. It's got to be balanced. So our kids can't consume all of our time so that we're not showing up in the world the way we should show up. And we can't be showing up in the world that we're not taking care of the greatest treasure that we've been given, which is our families.
mm, I know she's teaching good. She's teaching good. So, as we think through the dynamics of leadership, I recently encountered someone who's a thought leader in the marketplace and has the ability to really invigorate others. And so I had noticed some things where I'm like, that emotional intelligence is like, but I noticed it on like how that organization was running. Like, ooh, that leadership intelligence is like, and I'm noticing it on the organizational lens. How important is it for us to develop emotional maturity as leaders?
It is absolutely critical, especially after the last few years we went through. And I say that because, especially people as of color, we could go back to our communities and there was a level of currency there that we could build and draw from and come back into the marketplace and still do what we need to do. So no matter what happened here, good, bad, or indifferent, the ugliest, we could go back, get recharged, and then come back in and say, hey, what's up? But I can tell you, I came out of the parking lot, out of the garage one day last year. I remember, and I came up the steps and I turned into the lobby, and there was this woman. She was a Caucasian woman. I didn't know her, but I felt some kind of way about her when I saw her. So that was something going on within me. So again, I say we have to have these conversations in the moment and pretty fast. So I'm like, Yvette, that is not right. You don't even know this woman. And I did a podcast the next week on it that I have to learn to love you every morning.
Mm.
Because I didn't even know this woman. She had never done anything to me, but because of things I had suffered, when I came up those steps and took that right into the lobby and I saw her standing at the elevator, everything that was in me started coming up and wanted to be projected on a person I did not know.
Yep.
So as a leader, whether it's a racial thing or even just a difficult conversation with a male versus a female, or just I had some stuff going on with my life and I don't want to hear about any other husband or anything like that, whatever it is, we have to do those self awareness, be self responsible, be socially aware and socially responsible for everything we do. Now, you said it earlier, but I think we don't take it seriously enough. We have to know what we're saying, be very intentional about what we're saying, so that we create the culture and reinforce the culture that we want around us. Because if we don't, somebody else will define it for us, and we may not be happy with the outcome.
Mm.
So I'm saying that that currency is still very low in our communities. And I'm not just saying even people of color. Now, with everything happening in the world, that currency of being able to pull and get recharged from our community, our families, and things is low. So now it's a greater burden or responsibility on the leader to charge your people,
Yeah.
to build and reinforce and embrace them. When I spoke last week at the National African American Insurance Association, I said to them, build each other up. We read the negative headlines too much. Read your headlines. We talk about, oh, we can improve, and it's in good intentions because you want everybody to be better, right? Oh,
Right.
you can improve here, you can improve there. Oh, you do this, do that, da da da. No, build each other up more because we all need it. We all need it because crazy stuff is going on around us. And unless somebody is reminding us, you are really good at this. You are the best lawyer that I know. You are an attorney that cares about the work that I'm doing, and you bring it to our relationship. Somebody needs to hear that. And I would beg to differ that everybody.
Mm.
So let's read our own headlines more, and be the people who build each other's up while we're helping each other improve. But it should be more on the building up. And don't hide the inadequacies. That doesn't do anybody any favors. But there's good stuff that we're leaving hidden or on the table or taking for granted.
Mm. What's the good thing? What are the good things that we are taking for granted and leaving on the table?
Yeah.
And these keys that Yvette is giving to us as an audience. I know I'm interviewing her, but right now I'm trying to stay in it because I'm just getting so much. Um, they are transferable into every area of our lives, because if you own a business, you have to lock into this, because you eventually want to scale that business and create that culture. The other piece is you do it on the client facing side, because they can feel that culture and they buy
Hmm.
from the person, because they can get the services anywhere.
That's right.
They understand that based on the culture that you've built, because of your leadership style, your leadership intelligence, you're able to really bring all of this out. And that goes for ministry, the community, the profession, whatever it is, you got to lean into these skills that she's laying out here. I want to come here because you have, kind of talked about this thing of like leading from the soul. What does that really mean, and how do we even start with that?
So I've experienced too many leaders that lead based on how their leaders lead.
Mm.
And so if this is how Bob does it, then this is how I'm going to do it. And I often ask myself, well, how would you lead? If Bob wasn't around, who are you in this space of a leader? And how would you lead? How would you like to do it? Let's take off the mimic hat, the yes sir hat, the hat that, oh, this is the way we do it here. And that's the way I've got to do it. No, and I get culture. If you're in an organization that execution is everything, that still leaves a universe ways of for you to deliver that execution. as an individual authentically so that you compel those who are supposed to be around you to be even greater. So, leading from the soul is understanding who you are, being very introspective. How would I lead? How would I help people get to the right decisions that they need that's going to be beneficial for them and the organization? It's not always, I think we have too often leaders who will make decisions that are only for the organization and not considering the people. Now, I get it that there's times when we have to make decisions that do negatively impact people, but how do you handle it? How do you handle it? One day, somebody is a great senior leader that you're always talking to and you're always leaning on, and the next day they're gone and they had no idea that they were going to be gone. That does not compute to me. If I was close enough to be in your inner circle, you didn't trust me enough to say, "Hey, we have to make some changes. It will impact you. Here's what," and allow me now to make an informed decision, because to me that's being selfish. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not going to share that information with you because I still need you to guide the rest of this through, as opposed to you don't trust the integrity in that person in their work to say, this is not going to end well for me here, but I'm going to see this out to the best of my ability because I know there's another place waiting for me, and I'm going to be great even in my transition to that space.
When I was a teacher, we used to tell the kids, leave a place better than you found it.
Exactly.
And you just broke that down here again with leadership. Like, it doesn't matter where you're going next. You always want to have that space for the greatest amount of impact. Now, I'm almost tempted to just keep you and hold on to you, but I know you got other things. Like, I know, no, no. But I want to ask you this one thing, and then I'll close. But how important is it for leaders to become comfortable and accepting of critical feedback?
It goes back to those blind spots. We give feedback. How well are you at receiving feedback? And it is personal because we sometimes want to say people, we want to lead it with this way. It's nothing personal, but right. Um, I don't know how I'm impacting other people if people don't give me that feedback. I was teaching and facilitating a class a couple of weeks, and I shared the experience that I used to give feedback that I intimidate people. I didn't think I was, but that's what I kept getting. But instead of like in really introspecting and turning that around, maybe I was like, well, hey, I don't think I am, but if you think that is, that's your problem. You got to deal with it. And so I almost like I owned it,
Yeah.
as opposed to saying, no, you can get more results if you figure out why people are feeling that you're intimidating and what about you is making them intimidated and how you can turn that around, because as long as they're intimidated, they're not going to deal with you unless they're really close to you and know, no, she's not like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But how many people of quality and how many people that could really have enhanced what we were doing could have come in my circle if I wasn't putting that off, right? Intentionally or not. So we need that critical thinking, we need that critical feedback so we can internal, and again, even as an individual, I decide what I do with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I decide.
Mm-hmm.
Just because somebody says something doesn't mean that it's true, or if it's true, I have to immediately respond to it if I don't know how to respond to it.
Yes.
I decide if it's true or not. I decide if it's true, how am I going to unpack it? I decide if I unpack it, how am I going to implement it and where and when. I own that. And I think we often think that when we get feedback, now that person is in the seat of ownership. No, they only are if you give it up.
Mm.
So you can receive the critical feedback, but then you decide, you unpack it, you determine how you're going to apply it to your life for the better. And some things you say, thank you for sharing, and you put it on the shelf until you can figure out what to do with it.
Mm. I like that. So it's like sometimes people don't take enough time to process it. So
Mm,
they reject it. And then sometimes people just process it too fast, maybe because they're people pleasers. So you got to find, again, that here comes that word balance,
right,
even when receiving the feedback, to know how to manage it well, because it may or may not cause an emotional reaction or whatever reaction based upon your trauma and your triggers.
correct, correct,
So,
correct.
so
And
man,
don't deny the emotion. Don't deny it, but don't respond to the emotion necessarily in that moment. It's like, I'm like really wanting to punch her in the face right now, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to still be very professional about this and then go off. And the other thing is, don't stew in it.
mm,
And stewing in it is, I'm going to go tell Jamila, I'm going to go tell Bob, I'm going to tell Robert, I'm going to tell Jill, I'm going to tell everybody. Do you know what she had the nerve to say? No. You take the time to sit with it and deal with it. Reach out for help where you need um, to have people confirm it or say, well, I see it in a different light, but I could see where that might come from. Or, no, I don't see that at all. And then it's about taking ownership, right? We talked about that. You own your stuff, and you own the outcome of it, which is positive as well as how do I need to improve.
yep.
And if that's not you, then it's not you, and it's okay. I had to tell a gentleman, that is not me. Mm-mm,
Mm,
mm-mm. And I refuse to let him speak that into my life, because some things that we let people say in our lives stick in our soul. And then we have an unhealthy soul that we're leading from, as opposed to a healthy soul. And you always want to be as healthy as possible in your soul, because all of that bleeds out onto
mhm.
the people that you're working with.
Yeah, yeah. So if you could leave this audience with one final thought on leadership, its importance, and how you really create a climate and culture of impact and change, what would that final thought be?
The people that are around you, that are in your influence, are a gift, not a commodity, not an asset, not a resource. They are a gift. And we've too often thought of people as our resources, our assets, a commodity. Not so. They are a gift, and a gift in the form of a human being who is loved by an amazing father who said they were supposed to be here for this moment, this time, to create incredible things. You guys get to do it together. Look for those moments, those treasures in every encounter with that person, and care enough to help them build and grow from that space. And you'll see incredible things.
Wow. There you have it. Everyone that you're encountering, that you're leading, that you're possibly being led by, is a gift. And if we shift our mindset and our thinking to understanding them as a gift from God, our treatment, our intelligence, everything will rise up just a little bit more. And so, for any of you all who are looking for me to be your gift in your business, because you want to protect it, you want to grow it. Like, this is all happy clients. You want to make sure that you are not leaving your business up to chance, and that the very thing that you're working so hard for is going to be torn down because of not having the right legal foundation. Then you want to make sure you head over to imandmore.com. I love you all. I know she loves you. We were
Yeah.
excited to have spent this time with you. And I just want to tell you to be more and do more as you journey to more. We'll see you next time.